Everybody doing? It's been a while since I did part two of this. I just haven't had time and back working and having other things on the go. Hopefully, I'm in screen here. But yeah, time to do a commentary of Night of the Living Dead, part three of the original film. And yeah, I think that's all I gotta say. So let me get on the other side of the camera and get this going. And excuse me. As you know, I'm doing this very, very primitively. I'm just pointing the camera at the TV screen and we're going from there. So you're going to see a little bit of this from time to time. And we're going to start off with seeing that. This is near the end of where I left off last time. So. I think this is about where we left off. I'm gonna put my glasses on. Let's see my notes. Judith O'Day sitting there on the couch who played Barbara. When this film became as successful as it did, she was quite happy with it because... Let me turn this down just a bit. That should be good. Oops, there we go. But anyway, she was so happy about the success because she went from just being plain old Judith O'Day to being Barbara from Night of the Living Dead. And there's the car, which, or the truck, I guess. Notice how it has headlights again when they smashed the headlights earlier. There's a nice little jump scare right there. And the hands that he's chopping there are made out of clay filled with chocolate syrup. That's how they got that effect. And there's a lot of people were online debating what the first movie to use squibs with. And this is one of the credited ones. I don't personally believe it was the first one, but it certainly would be one of the earlier films to use squibs. And the voice in the background, of course, was Marilyn Eastman, who plays Helen, who also did a lot of the makeup effects in the film, as well as Carl Hardman, who plays Harry. Harry and Helen were actually, Carl and Marilyn were actually a couple for years. And the daughter, played by Kyla Scone. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but that's Carl Hardman's actual daughter. And that zombie right there is Marilyn Eastman as well, the one eating the insect in heavy makeup. Which is weird because she's actually a very attractive woman in her day, so she really hides it well. This is where the tension between the two characters really start.
He's insane. We've got to have food down there. We've got a right. This is your house. We've got a right. You're going down there with him.
Well, why didn't he take all the food and things down with him before they went and locked themselves in there in the first place?
Listen, I got a kid down there. She can't possibly. I couldn't bring her up here. She can't possibly take all the racket, those things smashing through the windows.
Well, you're my father. If you're stupid enough to go die in that trap, that's your business. However, I am not stupid enough to follow you.
This is one of the first movies to have a black lead. especially one that's so. Oh, sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat, but one that's so aggressive against white people. Now you wouldn't bat an eye at it. At least from the 70s on, you wouldn't think twice about it. Wouldn't. But 1968, during the height of the civil rights movement, it was a big deal. That was the door they cut into the wall to because there's no actual basement. The characters are just hiding in the wall and coming out. And there's Judith Ridley. This was her first film. Not sure what she did after that. I never really followed up on her career. And this here was a completely different location. This part.
There's lots of places we can run to up here. Mr. Cooper, we'd all be a lot better off.
After filming,
Working together.
Judith Ridley kept her shirt and her pants, and the shirt was she tore up apparently and used as dish rags, and the pants she was a painter, I guess an artistic painter, I'm guessing, and used the pants for that was the one she wore when she painted in. And there's Marilyn Eastman. Kyra, I'm gonna say Scone. I'm gonna pronounce it Scone, but it's Kyla Scott. Kyla or Kyra? I can't remember. I gotta look it up. Look through my notes here.
Yeah, but I didn't know who they were, and I wasn't about to take any unnecessary chances.
No, I can't find it, but I will. It'll pop up in front of me at some point. Her name. I think it's no, it's Kyra. Yeah, sorry, I found it. Kyra Scone.
Where'd you get the bandage?
Laundry in a basket, I wish.
But the three of them were actually a family in real life, so it's kind of interesting. I think that would have been Marilyn Eastman's stepdaughter
Too many ways those monsters can get in.
and Carl Hardman's biological daughter.
We'll see, right?
According to IMDb, I don't want to
Maybe me let them in down here.
spread rumor or spread lies, but I think that's the case.
To be right, everybody else to be wrong.
What do you mean by that?
Does anyone up there know why we're being attacked?
Whatever it isn't just happening here. It's some kind of mass murder. It's going on everywhere. The radio said to stay inside.
Radio.
Radio upstairs. I heard a news bulletin.
There's a radio upstairs and you boarded us in down here?
I know what I'm doing.
What did it say?
Nothing. Nothing. They don't know
Yeah, you
anything.
tell them.
There's mass murder everywhere, and people are supposed to look for a safe
Kind of a
place to hide.
dumb move on his
Take the
part
boards off that door.
to hide downstairs
Down here, Helen.
Harry, that
with all the
radio is
information
communication.
being accessed
The
upstairs.
authorities know what's happening with those 10 people for us. They tell us what to do. How are we going to know what's going on if we lock ourselves in this dungeon?
This is one of the first movies to actually show graphic death and violence on the screen.
We may not enjoy living together, but dying together isn't going to solve anything. Those people are our enemies.
But this basement was the building it was in was where they were storing the original cuts of this film, and unfortunately were destroyed by a flood.
If Judy would come downstairs for a few minutes,
There's a
Harry
cut
and I
there,
would come upstairs.
a little scene cut out where they actually have a bit of an argument about going upstairs or not, and they cut it because of probably for pacing, and that's why his head goes from straight to being turned without actually seeing it move. I'm just curious what the door looks like from this angle. Oh, it looks the same. Okay.
I'll take good care of her, Helen. She's all I have.
They're a fictional couple.
Why don't you go upstairs?
Tom and Judy, but the chemistry between them's very good. You believe that they're actually a couple. They're very believable. There's he says that her brother was killed, but it was never in any of the scenes that we saw. It was never mentioned, but it could have been mentioned like off camera. And there's Marilyn Eastman sitting in the creakiest chair I've ever heard on film. Like every time, it almost sounds like a backyard chair or something on springs, but. Sort of, it's like, who are all these people just showing up all of a sudden?
Harry's wife.
This was also, yeah, I think I mentioned earlier, yeah, this was Judith Ridley's first movie, but it was also Marilyn Eastman's first acting job.
Her brother was killed.
He really plays the annoying villain really well. For such a guy who's such a nice person in real life, apparently. But
Why don't you do something to help somebody?
apparently there was no running water in this actual house that had been turned off, but it still had I guess it still had electricity because they would heat water up on the stove. I like this scene.
I don't want anyone's life on my hands.
Is there anything I can do?
I don't want anything more from you, mister. If you stay up here, you take orders from me. And that includes leaving the girl alone. It's on, it's on. There's no sound.
But George Romero and a few others would sleep in the house at night, and they would.
Hysteria. What do they think? We're imagining all this? Shut up.
1968, to see a black man tell a white man to shut up on film like that was a big deal. Now you don't think anything of it, but because there's no running water, they would resort to just washing themselves with water they had on site and a rag every night as kind of like a quick way to bathe before going to bed. Dwayne Jones, who plays Ben, had never seen any of the other dead films George Romero made after this one, which I found a little bit interesting considering he's like the main character in this movie. And he never went on to watch any of the others. He said the worst part of filming this, in terms of it being a horror film, was someone squashed a bug in front of him, and he didn't really like that. He didn't really like the idea that someone just to kill the bug for the sake of killing it. It was a moth, actually, and he was uncomfortable with that. But I guess all the blood and guts you see later on aren't actually people being killed. So it is fake, so it's probably okay. The original title of the movie was going to be called Night of Anubis. Anubis, I think, is the god of mummification or something, according to what I read on IMDb.
If we can get some gas, we can get out of here. There's a pump out by the shed. I know that's why I pulled
But
in here, but it's locked.
they thought, who knows what Anubis is? So, and it makes sense because the hell is Anubis? And given that there's 6 films in the series now, are they all? Is it going to be Dawn of Anubis, Day of Anubis, Survival of Anubis? I think they would have. I think they went with the right choice, because even with that name, I probably would never have been interested in seeing the movie. It would have caught my eye.
Back to Earth, but never got here. That's the space vehicle which orbited Venus and then was purposely destroyed by NASA when scientists discovered it was carrying a mysterious high-level radiation with it. Could that radiation be somehow responsible for the wholesale murders we're now suffering? Newsman Don Quinn in Washington.
It's never been concluded that the radiation was the cause of it, but it's speculated.
You're coming from a meeting regarding the explosion of the Venus probe, is that right?
Yes, that was the subject of the meeting.
And there's the man himself there on the left,
Definite connection.
George Romero.
You feel that the radiation on the Venus probe is enough to cause these mutations? There was a very high degree.
Such a large man.
I'm not sure.
I got to see him once. They were doing a TV show in Toronto. The Hour with George Stroumboulopoulos. You know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to try and butcher his name, but George Romero there was on it. It was a really nice guy. You really get to see how small these studios are compared to how they look on TV with all the camera angles.
Doctor, please. I thought we decided that is not true.
I could be wrong, but I think this scene was shot guerrilla style. They just got out of the car, filmed it real quick, got back in the car, and drove away before any actual police could come.
Will there be a reply later? There will be a reply. Yes. Later this afternoon.
All the scenes pretty much were shot in Pittsburgh. This one was obviously shot actually in Washington, which is why I think they probably did it real quick to avoid paying the permits that on such a low budget film.
Hoping to get some further explanation of this. We've heard all these. We have to try to get out of here.
He said the rescue stations have doctors and medical supplies. If we could get care in there, we can get help for her.
No, it's one of the world's foremost authorities on space science and technology. Willard. I saw a sign that said Willard.
It's only about 17 miles from here.
When they did this scene, they actually used the names of real cities and towns in the area to make it more authentic.
Judy had a radio, and we heard the first reports about this. So we knew the old house was here, and we came in and found the lady upstairs dead. Then these other people came. We went down into the basement, put a bar across the door, and it is pretty strong.
How could we possibly get away from here? We've got a sick child, 2 women, 1 woman out of her head, 3 men, and the place is surrounded with us there.
I love his description.
Dr. Grimes, your entire staff, I know, has been working very hard to find some solution to.
Not really a lot of information I have about this part of the film, but
We have some answers.
we are long past the halfway point, so
Medical attention for anyone who's been
probably cut this off in a couple of minutes. We're hitting the 18, just over the 18-minute mark, so
How bad has your kid been hurt?
this is a good scene.
Look, you go down there and tell, Judy. Yeah, you tell Judy to come up here and you stay with the kid, all right?
Definitely see by far that Dwayne Jones is definitely the best actor of the bunch. Not to discredit anybody else, but his acting is just really, really well, really good. It's just, unfortunately, we lost him so soon. I think 1990. Which I think I mentioned it in one of the previous videos.
They watch her upstairs. Did she ask for me? She hasn't said anything. I don't understand. Baby. It's Mommy. I heard. I'll come back down as soon as I find out what they want. Thank you, Judy.
The body should be disposed of at once, preferably by cremation.
Well, how long after death, then, does the body become reactivated?
It's only a matter of minutes.
Minutes? Well, that doesn't give people time to make any
No,
arrangements.
you're right. It doesn't give
I like this.
funeral arrangements. The bodies must be carried to the
It's almost comical just the way
and burned.
it's serious, but it just sounds funny how he says that doesn't really give you time to make arrangements. No, it doesn't.
The dubious comforts that a funeral service will give. They're just dead flesh and dangerous.
I see. I need you to
tried
Like
to
a-
escape.
Hey, there's a big can of kerosene down there.
I think I'll cut this off just
There's a big key ring down
before or just after they leave the house.
gas pump on it.
I'll check.
We can toss the cocktails from a window upstairs. Meantime, a couple of us can go out and try to get the gas and come back for the rest of the people.
But that'll leave the door open someplace.
Yeah, that's right. Better be this door. It's closer to the truck. Before we rob the goods and supplies behind the cellar door, while we're gone, the rest of you can hold up in there.
I found some fruit jars in the cellar. And there's a key on here that's labeled for the gas pump out back.
I don't know if it's just because it's an old farmhouse, but there seemed to have been a lot of wood lying around. That I mean, there would have been shelves and tables, obviously, but a lot of wood to be able to board up all the boards or board up all the windows.
You and I'll go.
I think there's a weird cut here too with Tom.
You can go upstairs and toss the cocktails from a window. Tom, you and I will have to unboard this door. After you toss the cocktails, you hustle back down here and lock this door. It's no good to board it in because we'll have to get back in quickly. After we get the gas and get back into the house, then we'll worry about getting everybody into the truck. Now let's move it.
In terms of the gas pump itself, I might have mentioned this in another video. It's the same pump you see in the beginning, near the beginning of the film, that Barbara runs into when she finds the farmhouse. But she didn't know it wasn't bolted to the ground, and when she hit it, she almost knocked it over, and you can kind of see it shake a little bit, I think. I've never noticed it, but...
You always have a smile for me. How can you smile like that?
But yeah, it wasn't bolted. It was bolted down when they did the upcoming scene, but...
Come on, honey, we gotta move.
Tom, are you sure about the phone?
The phone is dead out. All you get is a recorded message.
If I could only call the folks. They're going to be so worried about
all
us.
the
Everything will be all right.
animal heads and skins on the wall.
We'll call them. They might even...
Interesting props for a movie about zombies and zombies and people dying. It's just, I think it's intentionally put there just to show, to add to the death, I guess, the death and dead theme of the film.
Rescue station.
I don't know.
Come on, honey, you're starting to sound like Mr. Cooper now.
Interesting though, but I might have mentioned this before too. The word zombie is never actually said in the movie at all. George Romero never considered zombies to be what we perceive them as now, thanks to films. They were just more like White Zombie and all the early zombie Haiti voodoo curse zombies from the 1930s. That's what he considered zombies. So they're referred to as ghouls and the undead, I think, had a couple parts, maybe. Actually, I don't even know if they call them the undead, but
Remember
called the dead and the ghouls. Yeah, I'm going to let this go for 2 more minutes. Cut it off at 25 minutes.
I just don't want you to go out there, that's all.
Hey, Smiley. Where's that big smile for me? Boy, you're sure no use at all, are you?
And there he is with his blinking that I mentioned in part 2.
We better get her downstairs.
We have to go downstairs now, Barbara.
She's right. You have to go downstairs now, just for a little while.
She really plays the in-shock character well. I wonder how much acting that actually required in terms of just kind of sit there and look glum and don't really say a whole lot. So he has the jars in his hand, but they're not full yet. I know that Tom filled a couple, but if you notice in some scenes, you'll see like numbers on the backs of the boards. I think maybe on this one here. Yeah, you can see like writing. It's because that's done in a lot of movies with props, just to make sure that for continuity, they make sure they put it back in the exact same spot. Anyway, I'm going to cut this off right there. Get a nice look at Tom's face. And so yeah, that was part 3 of my Night of the Living Dead commentary. I was going to do 5 parts. It might end up only being 4 because there's only about a half an hour of the movie left, I think. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll try and get the next part done a little bit sooner. And I do have a 3-day weekend coming up, so try and get it done then. So again, this is Night of the Living Dead part 3 of possibly 5. And yeah, I guess until the next one. Bye.